Hi, this is Mr. Longo, and I would like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video on how to be successful in the flipped classroom. The flipped classroom is how I run my class on a day-to-day basis. Now, it's been going on for a few years now, so students have a better chance of being exposed to this by now. However, it's still pretty new, and I would like to just take some time to explain what the flipped classroom is in case you are unaware of how it is run. This is about to be my third year going into it. I have already completed 2 years of flipping all of my classes every day, and I'm very impressed with the results. And I can tell you that an overwhelming majority of my students ended up preferring the flipped classroom to the traditional classroom after they got used to it. So basically, a traditional classroom is pretty much what students have been doing for years. Students would go to class, take notes that are given by the teacher, and try to keep up with writing down their notes, ask some questions at the end of class if there's time, and then they move home and try to do some homework problems on their own for extra practice. What the flipped classroom does is it basically reverses that. So instead of the students taking notes in class, they're now going to go home and watch the notes that I have prepared on a YouTube video and take notes step by step at home. So it's the guided aspect of it. It's the easy part of the lesson is taking the notes. And then what they do is they get to come to class for the hard part, and that's doing the problems. So when a student would get frustrated doing homework problems because they forgot how to do something, well, the teacher wasn't there for them to ask. Well, now, when the students come to class, it's pretty much designated time for extra practice, other activities, group work, and stuff like that, where I will be present. So if a student gets stuck, they can just ask right away. And that also gives us time to go deeper into certain topics and do some more challenging problems, because the taking notes on the basics of how to do a certain skill take place at home. So as I mentioned, my students over the past couple of years have really grown to prefer this method. So I want to share with you some of the things that my students really prefer. Now, this list of pros and cons was actually created by myself and my former students after they have experienced a full year of the flipped classroom. And as you can see, the list that my students and I came up with for what's good about the flipped classroom outweighs the negative aspects by far. So some of the things are you have more time in class to ask questions. Back in the day, in my class, sometimes lessons would run the full class time, and then the bell would ring, students would pack up, move on to their next class, and then go home and try to do homework problems. And if they were stuck, well, then they were stuck until the next day when they finally had the opportunity to ask a question. Now students watch the videos at home, and the next day they come to class, they have nothing but time to ask questions and do extra practice problems. Now, the downside to asking questions is students do have to wait until the next day to ask questions about the notes. Now, in a way, that's similar to the traditional classroom, because students would have to wait until the next day to ask a question about homework. But if time allowed at the end of class, students would just ask their question about notes during class. So you win one, you lose one. Now students have to wait until the next day to ask questions about the notes, but they have this teacher right there to ask questions about the extra practice. There's more time in class to work on extra practice problems. There's an extra review day for quizzes and tests because the video has already taken place at home. There's nothing but time that day to review for a quiz or a test. Another nice thing that my students really loved about the flipped classroom and the videos is that students can take notes at their own pace, and they don't have to worry about keeping up in class because there's a pause button. So if a student needs to pause the video to write down the extra step or try to see where the step was, they can take the time to do that. Also, if they need to take a break, they can pause the video, take a break for a few minutes, and come back. Students can go back and watch an example again. So if a student didn't catch something, they can just rewind the video and play it again. The nice thing about videos is that from pretty much any computer at home or any mobile device that can be connected to Wi-Fi, or if there's unlimited data, students can watch their videos in school, in the car, on the bus, at home, wherever they feel comfortable taking these notes. I always suggest that they take them from a computer where they can write their notes down, so there's a bigger screen, but students have really gotten used to their smartphones, so pretty much whatever works best for them. We also have computers available in some of the resource centers and in the library at school, so students also have access to that. And then videos are going to stay online for students to use as study tools for quizzes and tests. I do not take my videos down. Once I create a video for notes, it gets posted on YouTube, and it's going to stay there. So when students forget how to do a certain problem when reviewing for a quiz, they can go back and check out the video to see if they can figure out where they went wrong. And the other nice thing is students can keep up with the class when they're homesick or on a vacation. There's many times where students are going to miss a few days due to an illness, and if they have enough energy to sit up and take some notes, they don't have to fall behind in this particular class, or in other classes, if they missed a few days, they'd have to wait until they came back and feeling well enough to ask all of their teachers how to get caught up. Well, in this class, they can keep up from home if they feel good enough, or if they're on vacation. If students have a smartphone with a data plan, they can keep up with the notes while on vacation in the car or at the hotel or wherever you may be. The only other downside is when technology fails, and sometimes that does happen. We're all aware that technology does crash from time to time, whether it be a bad modem at home or not getting a proper signal with your smartphone when you're on a road trip. You know, things happen. It's just something that we've learned to deal with. So it does happen from time to time, but over the years, technology has gotten much stronger and it's much more reliable. So a few tips for success, again, created by myself and a lot of the students, is to watch your video on time and take good notes while watching. So I've recommended before that watching a video on a computer is best so the students can take their notes right there on a pad of paper or on an actual note sheets. I recommend using cell phones only when they really need to, or if they're sitting in study hall and want to review for a quiz and they just look at it really quick. Write your question down so you remember it the next day. This is one of the biggest things that students originally complained about a couple of years ago when the flipped classroom was new. Was I have questions about the notes, but I always forget what they are the next day. Well, all the student has to do is actually write the question down, put a few question marks by the problem, and actually write down what the question is. How did you get x equals 2? And actually write the question down so then when you get to class the next day, you don't forget what your question was. And then also do some extra practice problems. In some of the videos there are cues to actually try certain problems on their own and then click play to watch to see what actually happened. There are extra practice problems assigned in either worksheets or packets or book problems, and it's always encouraged to do some of those practice problems. So the last thing I want to share with you is some feedback and suggestions from former students. Now all of these quotes are directly from former students. It is verbatim. I just typed it exactly how they wrote it. And this is basically what the students actually have to say about the flipped classroom. Now, I'm not going to go read through every one of these. I'll let this screen sit here for a minute, or you can pause the video and then I'll scroll down so you can see the rest of them. But as you read through these, the students give a lot of great suggestions of how to be successful in the flipped classroom. It will also cover what the students really like about the flipped classroom, along with some comments from some students who did not like the classroom, and it actually give reasons of why they do or why they don't like the flipped classroom. So go ahead and take a minute to read through some of these. If you would like, go ahead and pause the video and read through some of these. I will also have a PDF document for you to view to make things easier if you'd like. And when you're done reading these, go ahead and click play and I'll scroll down and you can see the rest of them. But again, I highly recommend that you take the time to actually read through some of these because, again, they are directly from the students. This is what the students have to say. It is going to be a really nice thing for especially those of you who have not heard what the flipped classroom is, to get a better idea of why the students really like it overall. So again, this is Mr. Longo, and I want to thank you for taking the time to read through this video. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call or send me an email once you have my contact information that has been sent out to you. Thank you again, and have a great day. Bye-bye.